Ever watch one of those skyscrapers being built? It's like,
Yeah.
how do they even do that? I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
And those massive concert stages, it's mind-blowing. So today we're doing a deep dive on the people behind it all,
Yeah.
the rigging supervisors. We've got a ton of info from RoleCatcher to help us unpack this.
Definitely. And it's a lot more interesting than you might think. It's not just ropes and pulleys, let me tell you.
I bet. So tell me, when I picture rigging, I think big action movie scenes, super dramatic stuff.
Sure, sure.
What's it really like?
Well, you're right. There's definitely an element of that excitement. But what's really fascinating is the planning behind it.
Okay.
The thinking, the understanding of like the physics involved to
Really?
make those incredible things happen safely. It's like almost like a dance,
What a dance.
Yeah, this carefully choreographed dance of weight and balance and engineering know-how. It's pretty incredible.
So it's not just about being strong and fearless then.
Well, those things definitely help.
Right.
But yeah, when you look at what RoleCatcher says about a rigging supervisor's typical day,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot more about brains than it is about brawn.
Really?
It's about being able to coordinate different teams,
Yeah.
manage these big projects, and above all, making sure that every single lift, whether it's a steel beam or, a giant concert speaker,
Right.
is done safely and efficiently. That's the key.
And speaking of safety, that seems to be a big theme in everything we've got here.
Yeah, definitely. You can't overstate it. RoleCatcher really stresses that a good rigging supervisor, they're not just, checking boxes on a safety checklist. It's
Mhm.
way bigger than that. They're really cultivating a culture of safety on the job site.
Okay.
It's like they're responsible not only for their own safety,
Right.
but for everyone around them. That's a huge responsibility.
Wow. So no pressure then.
Uh-huh. Right.
So what about the actual skills someone needs for this? Is it all like super technical or is there more to it?
Well, it's actually a really interesting mix. And you're
Okay.
right, that technical side is essential. I mean, you got to understand things like load limits, different rigging techniques, how to inspect the equipment, all that's crucial.
Yeah.
But RoleCatcher really dives into those soft skills too.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, communication's a big one. You're the link between the rigging team, other trades, sometimes even the clients. So you got to be clear.
Right.
And RoleCatcher actually has this story about a supervisor who they prevented a disaster on a job because they were able to clearly explain a change in the wind conditions to the crane operator.
Wow. So being able to talk clearly under pressure is pretty important.
Yeah, it's a real lifesaver in this line of work, for sure.
Oh.
And then you need that critical thinking, problem solving on the fly. Every rigging setup is different, so you got to be able to look at a situation, consider all the factors,
Yeah.
and just make smart decisions, often pretty quickly.
So it's kind of a mix of brains, brawn, and thinking on your feet. No wonder RoleCatcher shows this career path as having such a great earning potential.
Oh, yeah,
That makes sense. Those skills are in high demand.
for sure. And speaking of career paths, RoleCatcher lays out kind of the typical progression.
Okay.
You usually start out in an entry-level position, like a rigging assistant.
Right.
You're learning the ropes,
Yeah.
literally from the more seasoned riggers.
Literally. Yeah.
Then you gradually move up to roles with more responsibility.
So you're not just stuck with one job title forever.
Exactly. There's definitely room to grow.
Okay, I like that.
And as you gain more experience, more expertise, obviously your earning potential goes up too. And that's one of the cool things about RoleCatcher.
Yeah.
They actually give you those salary ranges for different rigging positions, and they break it down by location too.
Oh, wow.
So you can really see how your career might progress financially if you put in the work.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool resource.
But let's be real. Getting your foot in the door, I imagine that's got to be tough. What's the competition like for these jobs?
Oh, it's definitely competitive for sure.
Yeah.
But this is where RoleCatcher can give you a leg up. They have these AI-powered tools that can analyze job descriptions and actually give your CV a score.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, to help you stand out.
Wow, AI can help you get a job now.
It's pretty amazing stuff. So, those applicant tracking systems companies are using?
You mean OTS?
Yeah, those things, they scan resumes. Well, RoleCatcher's AI helps optimize your resume so it actually gets seen by a human.
So it's like a secret code to get past the robots.
Exactly.
Love it.
But it's not just about keywords and algorithms and all that. They also have this huge database of interview questions, and a ton are geared towards rigging supervisor roles.
So you can walk into that interview feeling super prepared.
I got it.
So we've got these AI tools to help us craft the perfect resume and really practice those interview skills. But let's talk about the actual job for a minute.
Sure.
When I think rigging, I picture those big construction sites, and maybe those huge concert stages we talked about.
Yeah.
What else is there?
You're right. Those are the classics, for sure.
Right.
But when you really dig into these role catcher resources,
Mm.
you start to see just how diverse this world really is.
Okay.
I mean, they highlight all these specialized rigging roles. You might not even know they exist.
Really? Like what? Give me some
Well,
examples.
take high riggers, for example. These are the ones working way up high,
Oh, oh.
skyscrapers, bridges, even those massive wind turbines you see popping up everywhere.
Right.
Those guys are a different breed.
Yeah, they must be.
And then you've got boat riggers
Okay.
who rig, well, boats.
Makes sense.
But we're not just talking about sailboats and yachts here.
No.
No, think cargo ships, oil rigs, anything out on the water that needs, that secure weight distribution.
Oh, right, to keep things balanced.
Exactly.
So are we talking like completely different skills for each of these? You'd probably need a ton of different certifications, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not even just about like the type of rigging either.
Okay.
It's also about the environment.
Right.
Working on a swaying platform, 1,000 feet up.
Yeah.
Totally different ballgame than rigging a stage for a music festival,
Yeah, I can imagine.
right?
So speaking of music festivals, what about those giant tents they set up for outdoor events and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Is that rigging too?
You got it. RoleCatcher actually mentions tent installation as a related field.
Really?
Yeah, think about it. You've got tension, you've got to distribute the weight properly, secure those structures against the wind, the rain, all that.
It's true. I never thought about it like that.
It's all connected. So many industries rely on these skills in one way or another.
Wow. There's this whole hidden world of rigging expertise out there,
You can say that again?
and we've only just scratched the surface here.
Barely. And as if it wasn't diverse enough already, RoleCatcher highlights another big factor that's really shaking things up:
What's that?
automation. We're starting to see more and more robots being used for certain rigging operations.
That's right. They talked about robots for those heavy lifting jobs and those repetitive tasks to help prevent injuries and stuff.
Exactly.
But wouldn't that mean fewer jobs for human rigging supervisors?
Yeah, it's a valid concern for sure. I mean, there's a lot of talk these days about AI replacing jobs, right?
That seems like every day there's a new article about robots taking over.
Right. But here's the thing about rigging. Even with these robots doing some of the work, they still need someone to oversee the whole thing.
So it's more about humans and robots working together then.
Exactly. And in fact, the rigging supervisor's expertise becomes even more important in this new landscape.
How so?
Well, because now you need someone who can not only do the traditional rigging stuff,
Right.
but also program the robots, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, troubleshoot any problems.
It's like a whole other skill set on top of everything else.
Totally. You're not just a supervisor anymore. You're like a robot whisperer or something.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Right.
But I bet it comes with its own set of challenges, too.
Oh, absolutely. And RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from that.
Okay, so what are some of the downsides? I mean, we've talked about how demanding it is, the skills you need,
Okay.
but let's be real. It can't all be glamorous.
No, definitely not. Rigging, even with the robots, it can be really physically demanding work
Mm-hmm.
and potentially dangerous. Let's not
Yeah.
forget that.
Right.
I mean, you're dealing with heavy equipment, often at heights, in cramped spaces sometimes,
Yeah.
bad weather, you name it.
So you gotta be tough.
You got to be willing to work hard, that's for sure. It's not a job for everyone.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the exciting parts.
Oh, yeah.
And not think about the day-to-day realities.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's so important to, to go into any career with your eyes wide open, really understand what you're getting yourself into.
I agree.
But I also think it's important to remember that those challenges often come with some pretty big rewards, too.
Like what?
Well, the sense of accomplishment. For one,
Mm-hmm.
the problem-solving aspect of it, knowing that you're playing this vital role in these major projects. There's not a lot of jobs like that.
That's true. And let's not forget the earning potential is pretty great, too.
Uh-huh. Right. We were talking about the RoleCatcher salary data earlier.
Right, right. Did they have any info about how those salaries, differ between different types of rigging?
Yeah, they actually broke it down by industry and location.
Yeah.
So, for example, they were saying that a high rigger in like New York City or something
Okay.
could expect to make significantly more than, say, a boat rigger in a smaller coastal town.
That makes sense.
And of course, experience is a big factor too.
The more specialized your skills,
Mhm.
the more valuable you are, right?
Right. But I think beyond just the numbers,
Yeah.
it's important to consider those intangible rewards too.
What do you mean?
Well, the camaraderie,
Mm.
There's a real sense of purpose in this line of work, a pride in knowing that you're part of something bigger than yourself.
That's awesome.
Those are things you don't find just anywhere.
So we've established that this job isn't for everyone.
Right.
It's not easy. It requires a unique set of skills, a lot of smarts, and it's way more than meets the eye.
For sure.
But let's say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, this sounds amazing, but how do I actually become a rigging supervisor? Where do I even start? What would you tell them?
Well, that's where that getting started section in RoleCatcher comes in really handy.
Okay.
They really emphasize hands-on experience above all else.
So no need for a fancy degree. You can learn on the job.
To an extent, yes. A lot of rigging pros, they start out in those entry-level positions, working their way up. Now, don't get me wrong, having some formal education in, engineering, construction management, something like that, it can be a plus.
Sure.
But it's not always a requirement,
Okay.
especially for those starting roles. What matters most is that willingness to learn, a strong work ethic, and of course that unwavering commitment to safety.
Makes sense. You're not going to hand someone the keys to a crane on day one.
Exactly. It's all about gradually building up those skills, that knowledge base.
Yeah.
And RoleCatcher, they give you tons of advice on how to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, from finding mentorships to getting those certifications to just staying up to date with all the latest technology. It's all there.
It sounds like continuous learning is a big part of this career path.
Absolutely. The field's constantly evolving.
Yay.
New tech, new safety regulations, new best practices all the time. So you got to stay sharp.
So you're never really done learning?
Nope. A good rigging supervisor is always looking for ways to, to get better, to learn more.
It's like leveling up in a video game.
Haha, I like that.
So for someone who might be feeling a little overwhelmed with all this information,
Yeah.
what's the one piece of advice you'd give them as they're starting out on this rigging journey?
Don't be afraid to reach out, connect with people already in the industry.
Like networking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Talk to rigging supervisors, join some online forums, go to industry events.
Good advice.
Networking is so valuable. You never know where those connections might lead.
It's all about building relationships.
Exactly, especially in a field like this. It's
Yeah.
hands-on, it's collaborative, it's all about people working together.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking all about rigging.
It's a fascinating field.
It really is. And we've learned so much from RoleCatcher about the skills you need, the challenges, the career paths, all that.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But before we wrap up, I want to make sure we give our listeners some practical advice,
Yeah.
about actually landing a job in this field.
Absolutely.
Because it's one thing to know what it takes, but actually getting your foot in the door,
Right.
that's a whole other thing.
That's the real challenge, right?
Exactly. And that's where all this info we've been going over comes in, right?
Yeah.
The resumes, the AI tools, the interview prep.
It all matters.
Let's be real, the job market can be pretty brutal these days.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Even for people with tons of experience.
It's competitive out there.
So how do you stand out? How do you make sure your application gets noticed?
Well, remember those AI tools we talked about from RoleCatcher?
The ones that help you optimize your resume.
Exactly. Those can be a game changer.
Really? How?
Because they can actually help you get your resume seen by a real person,
Instead of just getting lost in the void.
Exactly. Think of it like you're speaking the language that those algorithms understand.
So you're not just shouting into the void, you're actually having a conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've made it past the robots. Now what?
Now it's time to wow them in the interview.
Easier said than done, right? I get so nervous in interviews.
I know, it's totally normal to be nervous. But that's why preparation is key. And this is another area where RoleCatcher really shines.
Oh, yeah. What do they have?
They have this incredible database of interview questions, and a ton of them are specifically for rigging supervisor roles.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right, so instead of going in blind, you can actually get a feel for what they might ask you.
So you can practice your answers and feel more prepared.
Exactly. And it's not even about, memorizing answers. It's more about just understanding what they're looking for.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, what are they really trying to figure out about you?
Yeah. Are they trying to gauge your technical skills, your problem-solving abilities, how you handle pressure, that kind of thing?
Right, right.
And once you know what they're after, you can tailor your responses to showcase your strengths.
It's like instead of just reacting to their questions, you're actually guiding the conversation a bit.
Yeah, exactly. You're being proactive. And RoleCatcher gives you the tools to do that. They even have this AI-powered interview practice tool where you can record yourself answering questions.
What? Really? That's wild.
It's like having your own personal interview coach.
Okay, that's awesome. So we've talked about the AI stuff, the resumes, the interview prep, but at the end of the day, what's the most important thing someone can do to land their dream rigging job?
Honestly, I think it's about being able to communicate your passion. Show them why you're excited about this field, why you're the perfect fit for the role.
So it's not just about what's on your resume, it's about who you are as a person.
Exactly. You got to let your personality shine through.
And show them that you're genuinely interested in this line of work.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, people hire people.
That's so true.
Skills and experience are important, don't get me wrong, but a genuine passion for the work, that can make all the difference.
Well said. This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of rigging supervision, and I want to give a big thanks to RoleCatcher for providing such amazing resources.
They're really a fantastic resource for anyone interested in this field.
They really are. And of course, a huge thanks to you for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And to you, our listener, we hope you found this deep dive informative and inspiring. Remember, no matter what career path you choose, if you approach it with passion, dedication, and a willingness to learn, you can achieve anything. Thanks for listening.